Well, good evening, guys. Firstly, let me apologise for the terrible sound quality, but I've got microphone problems again, and I'll try not to talk for too long. Right, so my dad called today, and it was really good to talk to him because I've been putting it off because of this thing. Every time I call, I get upset and say things that I shouldn't say, but it was really, really nice to talk to him and my mum. And my dad quite often talks about things that have happened in the past to him, and he started to talk about the Burnden Park disaster, and he was there when he was 16 years old with his brother who was 13, and this time around, before he launched into his story, I stopped him and recorded him, so he got first hand an account from my dad, and he's 91. I think he's 91 next week, or he's 90 now, or 91. He might be 91 now. He probably is 91 now. It's probably last year, the year that everybody's forgotten. But he gives a nice account of it. So I'll run you through what actually sort of happens before. So Stanley Matthews was like the sort of glamour footballer of the time. He was everybody sort of was also Stanley Matthews later and everything, and he was playing at Burnden Park for Stoke against Bolton Wanderers, and Bolton Wanderers was my dad's team, and I don't think they realised that it was anything special that day, and they were in the stands where behind them a load of people, here you can see them, all started climbing in from the railway embankment from behind, created a huge surge forward, an avalanche, and people were crushed in the surge, and my dad and his brother were carried over the crowds to safety, and the game carried on. The game actually carried on. At first they thought 38 were dead, but it was 33. But there is the list of the dead here, and in his account my dad said that at the time, or he's heard, that nobody had come from the Bolton area, but here there's quite a few. They're all from Lancashire. I'm not sure if Poolstock and Bamber Bridge are, or Lee, but Bury and Bolton, Higher Openshaw, this guy James Wilson, and that's the family name. Anyway, I'll just read you this little bit about what it says about the football match. Let's go here. The game was already underway but was stopped when the fans burst onto the pitch, and then again at 12 minutes when the barriers collapsed. Referee George Dutton stopped play while authorities tried to determine what had happened. He then spoke to a Bolton police officer who informed him that there had been a fatality. Together with the two teams' captains, the decision was made to halt the game. Shockingly, it was restarted again just half an hour later, with the bodies of some of those who had died in the crash laid out at the side of the pitch and covered over with coats. Some accounts suggest that the corpses were so close to the pitch that new touchlines had to be drawn in sawdust before the game could begin again. Now, this chaplain, that's Stanley Matthews, and he was old. He was 40 old for a footballer, but he was drawing the crowds in. So Phil Mason, Bolton Wanderers chaplain and head of the club's community trust, has helped to organise a series of remembrance events to take place today, 75 years after the tragedy. So he believes the decision to restart the game could have been because the country had been desensitised to scenes of death during the war. After the conflict ended, the FA Cup was the first competition of top-flight football to restart, so the anticipation for any games was huge, and many fans did not know what had happened in other sections of the ground. So he thinks it was like people were desensitised because of the war and Blitz and just. Well, yeah, I think that if they had stopped the game, I think that they would have had a real problem. I think they would have had a lot more dead. They would have all surged and, yeah, it would have been total loss of control. They had to sort of let them have their match. They didn't have any choice, did they? Anyway, enough of me. I'll leave you to listen to my dad. Yeah, that's good. I can record you at the same time, see? So I can get your actual words.
Yeah.
Because it's better to get your actual words, so you can tell me about it from the beginning now. So you were at the, what year was that? Because you were 16, weren't you?
I was 16, and I was born in 1946.
The year after the war. So it was an...
Yeah, it was about that time, yeah.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the team, but Stanley Matthews was over the hill. And he was the greatest footballer that, without any doubt, he always will be registered as that. He made a living out of throwing his caps at Blackpool. He had that many. You know, that's the sort of guy he was. But anyway, I left home. I was always responsible for my brother. I had to look after each other. We went down on the tram and then we walked to Burden. And when we were going to the match, I thought there was an awful lot of people seemed to be coming to the match this particular day. There was a lot of people there. We got on the ground okay, but where we usually went, at the back of the goal, where the kids all gathered, right at the back of the goal, and that's where it's happened as well. The kids couldn't get there because, my God, it would have been a lot worse if they had been there. Because we couldn't get near it, so we were a little bit farther higher up. We got sort of in the middle where we weren't used to being.
Mm.
And what happened was, from outside there was people were pressing to get in, trying to get in, and of course the kick-off was coming. Now, at the back of Bolton Wanderers ground that day, there was the two ends. There was the far end and the one end nearest Bolton. There was a railway track went across the back of the ground at Burnden Park.
Yeah.
And the trains used to run across the back of the ground. And even when the matches was on, sometimes the trains would stop and you could see the drivers was watching the games. They could see straight into the ground. And of course, because of that there wasn't very high, it was just a normal tight wooden fence keeping the crowd at the back of there. So when you went there, at the other end, you couldn't do what they did at that end because you couldn't climb anyway. It was because it was built in.
Okay.
It was covered.
So people were getting in.
Yeah, but the other end, now, what happened, there was, the argument was, what happened, they reckoned that there was a door left open. I think they broke in. Somebody smashed in, and once people could see that, people were getting in, it started off, it would be small, and it would have been like the floodgates opening. And all the people who were trying to get in, suddenly the surges, and they were breaking in, and they were going up the banking, across the railway line at the top, and they were jumping, climbing over the top and dropping in the back.
All right.
And all them thousands and thousands, I'm talking about thousands of people, were coming over and dropping in the back. Well, the ground was nearly full, because it was nearly a cricket field. It's not past kicking off time. And of course, we were halfway down, and the weight of them people pushing people down.
Yeah.
You know, and you can't argue about it. I mean, there's no use in people saying, well, you're not coming over here. You try and stop them when they're coming over at that rate. And they were coming over, and they intended coming in. And that was all along that back line. They were coming over. We started feeling the pressure. I did, and I worried about my brother because he was only small compared to me. Mm. And I could see that all the women, there never a lot of women at football matches them days, but there was a lot. All the women were being lifted up out of the crowd and handled down over the heads of the people down to the bottom. Mm. When they got to the bottom, they were going, and the police were there and taking them. What the police should have done, to which would save lives, was instead of once the trouble started, if the police had have at the bottom where the people were waiting, where the barrier was there before you went into the ground, police were there. They were stopping people climbing over. Yeah. So if they'd have opened that up and let the people bugger the game, what they did, I don't suppose they realised the amount of what was happening in the ground. Bugger the game till it was too late. open it up and let the people flood onto the ground. It doesn't matter about the match, did it?
No.
Just take the pressure off. Take the pressure on them people. But the police didn't.
They didn't realise that the numbers were going to come in the back way.
No, they didn't know this was happening. They didn't realise the amount of people, what was happening. We didn't know. We was in the bloody ground. I couldn't understand what was happening. I was being slowly pushed down, steps at a time, and the weight, and the people on the barriers, and the barriers were quite long. They were 8 foot long, I suppose, and the height up to your chest high. And they were leading on the barriers like they always had done, and suddenly they found themselves, they were trapped. The weight behind them.
That's what happened at Hillsborough as well.
They couldn't get away.
Yeah.
Crushed on them barriers. The barriers bent. And they were bloody great big thick barriers of metal. Yeah. And I went to the match the week after, and they were level with the bloody ground.
Oh, God.
Once that happened, it fell. Everybody fell, and everybody tumbled behind them, yeah?
Yeah.
So now what you'd happen, you got all them thousands of people tumbling on top of one another at the bottom.
Did you fall with them as well?
Oh no, we were lifted out. First of all, the man said to me, I said, I'm worried about my brother. The man said, well, lift him up. And they lifted him up, and he went, and I said, I'm supposed to be looking after him. Come on then, you can go as well. And I mean, I wasn't a big lad. I was never a big lad. And they picked me up and put me on the top, and I went down as well. And I went down. As I was going down, there were women coming down either side of me. Amazing. I got to the bottom, and of course the damage had been done then. The bodies were being pulled out.
And you saw the bodies, didn't you? Can you describe what you saw? I
saw the bodies, yeah. Yeah. And I walked on the side of it, and I thought, my God. And I didn't, I mean, you know, and then it's a football match.
Yeah.
And I've been many times to Burnden. I've been many times coming off the ground when there's so many people, and my feet have come off the ground, and I've been taken by the crowd. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's happened to me before.
You were saved, weren't you? You were saved. You could have died that day.
Pardon?
You could have died that day.
Of course, yeah, easy. If we'd have stayed where we were, we could have been in trouble.
Yeah.
But they got us out.
Yeah.
But the damage had been done down the bottom. You see, we couldn't see where the bottom was. We were it's such a trying to think just what really happened. I was more concerned about my brother.
Yeah.
Than anything else. I knew that I'd lost him. And to lose my brother on the football game, my dad had to give me a bloody good. I didn't have it going on, you know. I was responsible for him.
Yeah.
And eventually, so when I got there, the police didn't argue with it. They just, come on, out, get round the back up. And they were right round the other end to the back of the other goals. And there were people all sitting on the grass there, then piled up there. Get in where you could. So I because I was one of the late ones coming up there, I was near the front, more or less. Couldn't find him anywhere. So I stayed and watched the match. We did.
They finished the match, didn't they?
So they stopped it. They stopped the match.
Yeah.
And I thought they had to cancel it. Nobody knew what was happening. Nobody had a bloody clue what was going on. Obviously, there's something that happened up there. There was... I'm not really sure, but I'm sure the ambulances came onto the ground. But I'm not really sure about that. Something in my head thinks they did. But I'm not sure about that.
Yeah.
But I weren't concerned about it. You see, even when I saw these bodies as I got down and got out and it was moving away from me, even and you could see the bodies from we were at the other bloody end. The scene was there in front of you, all happening. And I don't know what happened to the bodies, whether they carried them out, whether they took them out. Because they started the match again. And they played the match all the way through the bloody match.
They've got a lot of pictures up, you know, on the internet. Have you ever checked to see if you're there?
I did see it, but I couldn't see myself. I didn't. Well, you try and find yourself in that side of a crowd.
I don't know. There's a couple of young lads here.
No, well, it might be.
Did you have short trousers on in those days?
Yeah, pardon?
Short trousers?
I would have long trousers on. I was working.
Oh my God! The number of people here. Quite a lot of young lads. Quite a lot of young lads.
But they were talking about 140,000. I think that's a bit much.
You can see the people climbing over the fence at the back in this picture.
Well, there you go.
Bloody hell.
I mean, we knew we weren't looking for that. We were you stood in a football ground. I've gone to the football ground for years. My dad, when I started going when I was about 10, I suppose, with my dad, and then I got older and I went on my own, and then my brother wanted to come with me, and I went every week. I went to Bolton Wanderers football ground every bloody week, and we were used to it. So there were things in there which we didn't think about. We'd been used to being crushed and pushed around. Of course we had. That's why all the kids went to the back of the goals where the bloody trouble was.
Yeah.
The lucky thing is that due to the crowds coming in, early crowds coming in, the kids just didn't. They couldn't stay there. They must have gone. They must have shifted them, I suppose.
Yeah.
They must have taken them out before the police probably let the kids go around the other end. I think they probably did. But we were farther back than that, because when we got there, we couldn't get down to the bottom for the bloody crowd, where we normally went.
Yeah,
we were stuck in the middle, right behind the goals, but quite a way back. We wouldn't be able to see so bloody much, because the crowd was getting worse and worse and worse, and it was bad. It was bad. Now, when we got to the other end, I sat down there on the ground and watched the football match, and after the game, of course, I went out to the ground and I walked home. I always walked, and it's a long way from where I lived in Hallowell, which was a long way from the football ground. But if you cut through the back streets, which we did, it's half the distance. We were only kids, and it took us a while to get home. And I was walking all the way back. And of course, when I was going back, people was outside all the way up. People was waiting outside, waiting for the people to come out, because obviously they'd heard it on the radio. There was no television then days. There'd been a disaster at Burnden Park. We didn't know what the death rate was. I thought, when you really think of it, 33 people was a lot of people to die. But
and to carry on bloody playing football, come on.
Yeah. Yeah. But the amazing thing was, of the 30 people who died, none came from Bolton.
Oh, wow.
They were all the suburbs of Bolton. Isn't that strange?
That is weird. None of them were from Bolton.
No, none of them were. Yeah, so they say. I can only quote what they say. They read all the names out, I believe, on that last of the people who died. But they came because of Stanley Matthews. He was a draw. He was a draw to that game.
Yeah.
We didn't draw us because we always went, and it was a cup tie. And no score at the end of it, so there was nothing gained and nothing lost that way. And of course, when I got home, my mother, our Don was home. Thank God, he got home before me.
Oh God!
And my mother and my dad were waiting, and my dad come running when he saw me. My dad come running up, and he didn't know what to say. He said, "Come on, get in! Come on, get in!" He said.
Didn't you say there were people all stood on the doorways waiting for their?
Yeah, but when we were walking back, I walked like so, because we cut through all the side streets all the way up to. It's a long way as well, to walk all that way, but we did it.
Yeah.
It was 3/4 of an hour, maybe an hour's walk, I suppose. But we were kids, and it saved us money. We didn't have to pay for the tram or whatever, And you had to walk into Bolton to get the tram anyway, so you might as well start walking home. And we did it. I did it, and that's the story. But it's a long time ago.
Yeah, I know, but you remember it, don't you?
I was there. But as a young lad, I probably saw it in a totally different light to everybody else, because I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know these people were dead. And I don't, and when I was doing, a lot of people, when I went over the heads, the bodies were still trapped, crushed at the bottom. They hadn't got them out. You know what I mean? They weren't 30 odd people there when I went out. Because it hasn't got to that stage, because I was going out pretty quick. But it was happening. It was happening then. But there were 2 people who'd been got out, the early ones, and there must have been there've got to be maybe half a dozen people lay on the ground, and people were trying to bring them round. And I saw there was one man there, and he'd been left. There was nobody with him. But there certainly weren't. But there were still the there were still people trapped.
They probably came up on a coach, or the coach people
when
came
you
up
think
on
of it,
coaches.
when all that weight come down, it was the people at the bottom who would be killed.
Oh,
and
yeah.
by the time they got the people off the top, get ladders, that's to take all the people in, release them into the bottom of the ground there to get to the people who were trapped at the bloody bottom.
Yeah, well, the thing is, if you go over, it's like a stampede. If you go, you can't get up.
Well, you can't get up.
No, no way you can get up because there's people.
Them barriers.
Yeah, and they can take your eyes out and everything.
Them barriers burnt. By the time them barriers burnt, they were dead. They were crushed to death on them barriers.
Yeah.
You know, no man could live with that sort of a death. I don't care who they are. And it was just that bottom bit, the bottom barrier is what caused all the problem. And that's the back of the goal.
They put them all behind. They lay the bodies all out behind the goal, didn't they?
Well,
they
laid out
playing the game.
at the back of the. Well, they had to. They couldn't.
I can't believe they carried on playing the game.
Yeah, but again, the bodies were moved, and because of the football match, and bear in mind I was 16 years old. And 16 years old them days, they're a bit older today than what I was. 16.
Yeah, well, you were a man
14,
then.
you know, I was
you were out to work, weren't you?
And my brother, and all I was worried about was watching the football match. Once the football match started, I didn't give a bugger what happened. I hadn't a clue, did I? I wasn't really concerned about it. I didn't know, did I?
Yeah.
And neither did a lot of the people there. Must have all older than me. All dead now.
Just got on with it.
I mean, you know, I'm 91.
You're probably one of the only people still alive that remember this, which is why I'm
getting you
to tell the story.
Yeah, well, it's a story I can only tell you from a boy's point of view. And I watched a football match, and the football match took over. I never bothered anymore about going down on their heads. I never bothered about seeing them few people laid out there. It didn't affect me anything. I thought, well, they'll be all right. And another thing, I suppose, I thought in my mind at the time, we're playing football, so it must be okay.
It says
you know, everybody must be okay. We're playing the match.
It says 500.
And so did everybody else.
It says 500 were injured.
Well, they're probably right. They're probably right. I don't know how many was injured. There probably was. But it doesn't matter to me because... And all the people at the back of me and all the other people in the ground. And it was packed, remember? The stands were packed. Oh, it was a full bloody packed ground. Yeah. It must have been. Well,
I suppose it's a bit like being at a music festival, and if something happens in one part of the festival, the rest of it just carries on.
Yeah.
Because you don't know. You might hear that something's happened. They said, there was a bit of a fire.
Yeah, I knew there'd been problems.
Yeah, yeah.
And I knew that people had been hurt.
Mm.
I didn't know people had been killed. I didn't know them bodies, which I saw were dead, were being resuscitated. The police were there. All the police were there.
Well, you might have just thought that they passed out, being alive.
Oh, yeah, they got crushed, and people get
crushed injuries are awful, yeah.
And I was round the other end. And the game started, then for some reason it stopped. And people... Nobody was particularly talking to me. I was still more concerned. As soon as it stopped, I was on my feet trying to find my bloody brother again.
Yeah.
And it must have, I can't remember how long it stopped for. It wasn't long before they came on again.
That was probably because something else, they were discussing whether to carry on with the game or not. But
I think they must have decided
I think
the amount of people there,
there would have been a
game
panic.
was abandoned. It'd be a hell of a job getting it started. Let the game play on.
It would have been a panic.
Time to clear up the mess.
Yeah.
While the game was on.
Yeah.
By the time the game was over, they'd have shifted the bodies,
and then they can just filter the rest of the crowd out as normal. Yeah.
And well, and I was more. I hadn't got a clue in it. I walked all the way home, and people were saying because they were going past and talking, and I wonder why all these people was out waiting. I thought, what were they all waiting for? You know, I in my mind,
Dad, I think you were probably in shock.
Well, probably we were. It was. I mean, the fact that I've been come down, I thought it was great to be lifted down to the bloody bottom on people's heads.
I reckon that when it started, they started playing again. You must have thought, oh well, it can't be that bad.
Well, no, it wasn't bad at all.
Yeah.
Jacqueline, I had no fear. I had no worries. I didn't feel anybody had been dead. I didn't know anybody was dead.
Yeah.
Got to be honest.
Probably
I didn't
happened
know.
really quickly as well.
And I was more interested in the bloody match worrying about anything else.
Mm.
All I was worried about at the back of my mind was, where's my brother? I was thinking, is he okay? Well, he's got to be okay, because there was loads of kids and people at that end, and you couldn't get up and go and search for him because of the amount of people there.
There's another bloke here. He was he said he was 16. This was in 2016. Yeah. He's from Blackpool, and he's giving his story. He's giving his story.
Yeah. Well, he's probably similar to mine. But you see, I didn't realise that many people coming over.
He says 85,000 people.
How many?
85,000.
85,000 they said was there.
Yeah.
Well, Burnden Park, when it was 35,000, was packed.
He was on the
terrace. I can't see all that many being there.
He wasn't actually on the bit where you were?
It was just solid. People obviously realised it was getting crowded, and for people like me, especially with a little lad, he wouldn't be able to see the bloody game anyway.
Yeah.
To get it out.
Yeah, yeah.
And the women...
So they never really covered the disaster afterwards. They just swept it under the bloody carpet, didn't they?
When the last disaster came afterwards, when all them people were killed at the other match at
Hillsborough,
the Liverpool
that inquiry
died.
is still going on.
There's a big, and when that happened, I said to myself, "Well, what happened?" I remember.
Yeah, I remember you telling me about it then.
When I was 16, I was 16 years old.
That Hillsborough inquiries went on for years.
No, it just faded away.
Yeah.
And for some reason or other, Bolton made a big issue of it. I think it was, 50 years, was it? How many years was it ago? It must be a long, 75 years, was it? I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
Must have been 70 odd years.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm 91 now.
Yeah.
You know, and I was 16, you looking out for yourself.
Yeah, I can't do that.
Yeah, but, you know, so...
70 odd years.
Yeah, it's a long time, isn't it?
Yeah.
Ago.
Yeah.
And people have forgot about it, but it did. I mean, I don't know how they got. They must have taken the body very quietly. The police was there, and the police must have done it. I suppose they must have taken the bodies one at a time, very quietly, without disturbing anybody, without making a fuss. Just taking them on the stretcher and just taking them quietly out, one after the other. I think that's what it must have happened. I didn't see anybody move. I didn't see any move. Well, I wasn't looking for movement. I was looking at the bloody football match.
Yeah.
Oh, everybody was, I suppose. The old ground was still packed. It was still packed solid. Nobody went away. So there was 180. There was 180,000 in there. They were still there then at the end of the bloody game.
If they'd have stopped the match, people would have crowded the pitch. There would have been chaos. So they did the right thing. By carrying on with the match, people just filtered off normally.
Yeah.
But if they'd have said, we stopped the match, everybody would have panicked, Dad, and then there would have been another stampede and it would have been hell. So they did the right thing.
The players went off, and then they weren't long before they came on again.
Yeah, I think they went off, and then they said, we think we better carry on. Because
this has never happened before.
Yeah.
Any football game.
They went there for a match,
They were learners of it. They learned the game there.
Yeah, they went there
for
the match.
About that afterwards. They did something, I don't know what it was, but it did have an effect on the game. The barriers
they changed the barriers.
Were better and safer.
Yeah.
And they talked about seating them days. Stanley said it would be a good idea to seat people there, and instead of having them standing, put them into seats. And it's worked in some of the places. This has happened, hasn't it?
I don't think they realised just how many people were going to turn up to see Sir Stanley.
Oh, I can't understand. 180,000 people was in Burnden Park. I couldn't understand where they were.
They're saying.
I can't believe that, because they were packed bloody. They would be. The end I was, which people there were people who was okay in that place. But some of the people, the early ones, what went across, they went into the little space in there for them, you know. And eventually, as it got crowded, they stopped, and most of the people were kids, young people.
Yeah.
Quite a lot of youngsters there. We were safe there.
Yeah, yeah.
But 180,000, I can't honestly believe that there'd be that many in that ground.
They're saying 85,000 here, Dad.
85,000.
Yeah.
Well, 85,000 when the ground was full. Burnden Park would have been chock-a-block at 40,000.
Yeah.
And that's double that. I can't really think there was that many in. Because if there'd have been that many in, it'd been a lot worse, I think.
They got a picture of people going in here, Dad. You might be in this one. There's hundreds of people here.
Well, there's a lot of people go to football matches, Jacqueline. There's a lot of people do.
I remember
Every
you
time
taking
I
me
went
to
out at Burnden Park, and I'm serious now.
You took me to a football match when I was a little girl, I remember.
My legs weren't on the floor.
I
was walking along and the way was so big, I was just going with the crowd. The crowd was moving too fast for me, when I was a boy. And as long as you didn't fall, you was okay. You couldn't fall because the folks in front of you, they were walking, but you were little, and I thought, whoa, my feet had left the bloody ground, I was still going.
Getting taken along with the crowd.
Moving out of crowds like that is no unusual. People will tell you that this does happen. But they're telling me there's 80,000 in Burnden Park. Well, I can't really see that. Honestly, I can't.
No.
I suppose at the side, I think there was people allowed in there. I don't know. I don't think they realised how many people were coming in. Well, nobody did. Nobody expected that amount of people to turn up anyway.
Mm.
There's never been as many people ever at Burnden Park than that particular day. Having said that, so you can talk maybe 60,000, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll be more realistic. That's a lot of people. And bear in mind, all the trouble was at that end. All the trouble was at that end. And a lot of people moved from that end.
Well, they all snuck in over the bloody wall, Dad. They all snuck in. Like climbing the fence at Glastonbury Festival.
Yeah, you can see the picture when they showed pictures of the match when it was being played.
Yeah, you got on the images here. It's got like shows the crowd, and you can actually see some people climbing over the fence at the back.
Oh, Christ, they were coming over. Yeah. I mean, I saw that. I mean, I knew they were coming over. When I went up, when I was lifted up, I could see, and I knew there were people coming over the back. But, I mean, I've never seen that before, so I didn't know there was a way they could get up around there. So obviously something had broken down in the far corner, which I hadn't, and people had found a way into the ground.
Is that where the railway was?
Yeah.
They just walked along the line.
They had to climb up a bank.
They hadn't been let in the front, so they all walked round. That's what they did.
They walked round yeah. I don't know how they did it.
They did it because there was no police to stop them, I expect.
Well, no, there wasn't, no. The police wouldn't expect them coming over there.
No, they weren't expecting that.
Not of that amount.
Yeah.
And of course there was thousands outside waiting to come in, you see, which was the game was due to start.
Yeah.
And people were panicking. They want to get in to see the beginning of the game, and you know what crowds are like, and people can't bloody wait. And they paid to come in, but they've been through what they could have done if they'd have thought about it. They could have shut the bloody barriers, stop people coming in.
Yeah.
So the ground's full. Today they would do that.
No.
They'd shut the ground off, I suppose. But there's lots of stories about what happened around. I don't know. I can't answer that. I don't know. There's something happened around the back. They got in, and they were coming over there. And that's where they came in. Make no doubt about that. And all them people were coming down and down and down and down. And they have no option. They were being pushed down.
Mm.
People were, it was a nightmare.
And you lived to tell the tale, and here you are telling it.
We wouldn't have seen the bloody game anyway.
Mm.
You know. And they got a lot of. I think most of the women, there weren't many women who went to football matches then. They don't like to do today, but they were all ladies who were going down, and I went down as well.
Yeah, I think women go went to be with their blokes, and because it was a historical thing.
Mm.
With Sir Stanley Matthews there, it was a bit glamorous. It was.
That's right. Yeah. No, I mean, when we got to the top, we watched the game. And I was in. I mean, that's you see. Once I got in a safe place, and I was pretty sure. I was always very sensible. I mean, he wasn't an idiot. He was a clever little boy. He'd look after himself.
Yeah.
He was 2 years younger than me. So
Yeah.
13.
Yeah.
Well, 13-year-olds are pretty bright. He was okay. I knew, and I know he weren't hurt. I knew that he'd gone before me. And he only got about 15 minutes start on me, I suppose.
Yeah.
But in that 15 minutes, he'd be ripped away, and he probably wandered away and found himself somewhere in his niche. And he wouldn't be worrying about me, I'll tell you that. You know, he wouldn't worry about me. I watched a football match, and I had no idea as people had died till I got home. I knew there was something wrong when I was going on, because I couldn't understand why all these people were, well, not all, but many people were out, still at the doors, watching, because
that's the image I always see.
That was the area near the ground.
Yeah.
About a mile, maybe. After that, so I went farther on, of course, that petered out.
I always get that image in my head of you walking home and seeing all the people, all the women on the doorstep.
Yeah, well, there were many days at the beginning, but like I say, it was a long walk. Yeah. I had home from there to where I lived. And the time I got home, of course, it all petered out.
Waiting for those kids to come home.
Yeah, and a lot of people walking home. The people did walk them days, a lot more than they do today. Oh God, I don't know. I mean, I couldn't understand it when we came down on the tram. We didn't walk it down. We came down on the tram, and then we walked to Burnden Park, which was a mile and a half, maybe, off the top of my head. And I couldn't understand why all the crowd were there. Such a lot of people going towards the football. I said to Don, a lot of people going to the football ground today, isn't there? You know, more than what there normally would be. Because we went for 3/4 of an hour before the kick-off, I suppose. I can't remember the timing, but we always never trouble getting in. We always managed to get in, and we always managed to get at the back of the goals.
Hey, Dad, it was 75 years ago this year, and they've remembered it. They've got an article online about it. 9th of March, they put it up. The Mank, on the Mank. It says, never forgotten. It says, they started to play the game again, and then a policeman came onto the pitch and said there'd been a fatality, and they decided to carry on again in sickening circumstances, and it was a goalless draw.
That's right.
And after that,
I didn't see a policeman come on the pitch and mention anything.
No, well, they lie. They change it. You don't know, do you? I mean, you were there, so you didn't see a policeman.
I didn't see anything on the loudspeaker system either.
They all went off, didn't they, and came back on?
Okay, well, we went off the pitch, and after we thought they'd cancel the game. And there was a grumbling going on. Of course there was. Well, what's happening? Nobody told us what was happening.
Everybody got pissed off, so they thought we'd better finish the game. So
I think they decided that they daren't say it had been cancelled. There could have been a lot of trouble if they had. I think that there would have been a massive crash onto the ground. There would have been a lot of smashing going on. They got a list because people were pissed off.
They got a list of the dead people here, and there's a James Wilson there.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Might be a relative.
Well, I think you'll find out that they were none from the Bolton area. They were all from the suburbs of Bolton.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to have that in there.
Anyway,
that was great. That's great.